why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about a permanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. Welcome back to the Degen Roundtable Sunday News Show, episode 99. Today we're going to be talking about companies bringing Bitcoin to the traditional finance markets. We have two big stories, actually a third one there, which is almost two, so effectively four, talking about companies and whether or not they're getting listed on different exchanges and what implications that may have for the future. Outside of that, though, yes, we also have some other articles talking about the markets. We have some differing opinions based on what people are seeing in the markets going on right now, but we'll talk about that so we can understand where we're sitting right now and how we can possibly best move from here. Outside of that, though, hello! I'm Zenith. I'm your host for the evening, and I'm joined by my excellent compatriot, Dace. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well, sir. I'm well. Glad to be here on a Sunday night. Don't always get me on a Sunday, so it's cool to be here.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. I wasn't even supposed to be here on this Sunday. On Friday night, I was supposed to be headed to Salt Lake City to hang out with some folks. Got a friend that was running a marathon over there and wanted to hang out and just spend time with them. But we were on the plane, we were getting ready to depart, and they're like, oh, I think there's a light out on the aircraft, and it was the tail light. And they're like, we're going to have to go back to the gate. And they're like, well, the grounds crew already went home, so it's going to be 2 hours before they get out here, and we don't even know if that's going to fix it. And I was like, well, I'm supposed to be somewhere in 12 hours from now, and if I can't get there, then I guess the weekend's canceled. So here we are. Either way, happy to be with you.
Well, yeah, glad you're here, dude. Sorry your plans got stepped on, you know. Airport things happen. It's no fun.
Dude, airplanes cost money to fly, cost money to keep on the ground. They are, geez. If you thought boats were bad, aircraft are next level. It's wild. Outside of that, what do you got going on? Anything cool, interesting, some off-topic stuff?
Yeah, so doing a big sound system install Monday, tomorrow morning. One that I've hunted for quite a few years. It's pretty large scale, and so it'll be a fun project. Our mutual friend Will was down here for my last decent sized project. We posted some pictures in the Telegram. Check out this QR code if you want to go see those pictures and all the other stuff that we have there at Degen Roundtable in Telegram. That's where I'm the most active in this little group of ours. Not always on here Wednesday or Sundays, but I'm posting in there probably too much, as Zenith could probably attest. And so don't you nod your head. And so yeah, no, that's what I have going on, man. Is I'm always talking with the boys in Telegram and getting work done.
Love it. If it makes you feel any better, you and I are kind of like opposite sides of the coin, which is, I know I'm not super active in the Telegram. I do get in there and post some stuff, but I usually just try to run all the streams and whatnot and make sure that we still have the old front-facing view on YouTube and everything, and X. Shout out to all you guys catching it over there, by the way. But yeah, no, if you're interested in joining, that is where you can find it. And by the way, I do have a group of people here that are probably already inside of that Telegram chat. In fact, I can confirm that most of them are. And that is our good people this evening. We don't have Will, so we don't have the chat shout-outs poster, but I do want to say hello to everyone out there joining us tonight. Starting off with Funkmaster Hex. He says, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. I'm having myself a little sweet treat tonight. Picked up one of them fancy root beers at the store, so enjoying that. Do you have a beverage this evening?
Just a giant jug of water.
Attaboy.
Keeping it simple.
Ooh, that's the old the Hofbraustein.
It is. It's large enough to where if I roll over in my sleep, I won't knock it all over my house. That's the functional purpose.
I dig it. All right, up next we got Moonpilled Rational Optics. DJs assemble. Good to see you, sir. I do apologize. Book club was postponed by a week due to this one right here. So don't worry, we're going to be covering the Bitcoin book this next Friday, and it should be oh gosh, I might be traveling again. I'll talk to Will. We'll see if we can make something happen, or we might do it early, actually. Outside of that, we also got Moonmutt. Let's go. Good to see you, sir, as always. And another one that's been showing up a lot, Miss Amber Simon. Hello. Hello to you as well, Amber. And then, yes, last but not least, Moonpilled, throwing the fire emojis in there. Oh, one more. Dr. Alan Chen of Your Health Unplugged. Happy Sunday, DGens. Happy Sunday to you, sir. Hope you are doing very well, doing some good stuff out there, helping people get their health in order. Folks, if you don't know, Dr. Alan Chen is a bit of a friend of the channel, also hangs out on book club from time to time. He runs the YouTube channel, Your Health Unplugged, right there. So if you're interested in hearing what he has to say about some health and stuff, big proponent of creatine as well. But if you're interested in all that kind of stuff, go check out his channel. He's got fantastic stuff. Alrighty, that is it for the old chat shoutouts. I do want to give one final shout out, though. I want to give a massive thank you to the guys from the Every Coin team that came on, were our special guest on Wednesday. We had fun. We did a little trading card episode. For those of you guys that missed out on that episode, Every Coin is actually a token that was launched over on pump.fun over on the Solana side of things, but they actually created a trading card game that you can spend the tokens on to actually get the cards. They are collectibles, but it's also a game. I went ahead and got a few of them because I wanted to see what it's about. Lord knows I'm a bit of a nerd myself. Got all sorts of stuff on the desk here, but either way, massive shout out to those guys. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in that project, they do have a lot of information coming out over the next month. They're going to be starting a massive marketing campaign. And if you're one of those people that likes first editions of cards and whatever, you got to buy the initial wave now that you can get through using the token, which is very cool because it's actually a buy and burn feature. And after that, they will just be releasing just normal stock to the public. So if you're interested in that stuff, go check them out. Either way, thanks again to those guys. Very excited to see what they have going on. One more person sneaking in here, Mr. Fit Trucker 92. Let's go, getting the sauce from the gym. That's right.
Excellent.
Alrighty, well, let's start it off with a little bit of the markets. So what are we even looking at these days? Well, coming to us from Cointelegram, we have article titled "Crypto Sentiment Moves into Fear as Interest Wanes on Obscure Altcoins." Crypto traders are weighing which major asset might lead the next upward move as risk appetites cool, according to sentiment. Crypto sentiment has flipped into fear, which signs showing that investors are temporarily stepping back from moving further down the risk curve, according to the sources. Quote, "It's clear traders are less interested in obscure altcoins and are interested in debating which major asset will break out next." So, make that bigger for you guys. Sentiment said that crypto market is increasingly focused on larger cap crypto assets such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. A heavy focus on large caps can indicate a more cautious or risk-off sentiment amongst traders. Bitcoin's price remains indecisive. It comes amid growing calls from traders for an altcoin season. However, Bitfinex analysts recently said it may not arrive until more crypto ETFs potentially launch later this year. Meanwhile, on Sunday, the Crypto Fear and Greed Index, which measures overall crypto sentiment, posted a fear score of 44 after posting neutral readings over the previous 2 days. Yes, so according to the sentiment, it's getting a little bit lower. It's not nearly as low as we were back in like March, April timeframe, but it is very interesting to see that we are coming off an all-time high and we're already back down below 50 on the sentiment. So it's a bit of an indicator with how people are seeing things going on. But Mr. Dace, you also brought up a very interesting article as well here, or rather a tweet, if you will. That's coming to us from Binance Square. So Salvatore Giuseppe, the other/ETH is at its highest historical oversold level. The last time this happened, it marked the bottom of the altcoin market capitalization, which then increased 1,250%. Don't miss it. So what are we looking at here, sir?
Well, this is the degen thesis, right? I mean, this is your reason to go buy altcoins. You know, if you need your excuse. No, look, I think you and I met through some other YouTubers that cover crypto content and do tutorials, and they taught us something that I've heard echoed in the space since I've become more and more immersed in it, which is over time, a lot of the cryptos are going to go to zero, right? And there will be this consolidation, you know, if you zoom out over a long enough time frame. I think we have seen that in a lot of cases. We've obviously seen, there's never been more tokens, you know, who knows how many tokens were released today, right? I mean, it's a staggering rate of expansion in this field in terms of the number of possible tokens to choose. I think that is part of why this chart looks like it does. where you've got that dispersion of interest outside of the big players, like the article named, your Cardano, XRP, Bitcoin, Ether, Sol. Those are the names that people recognize, right? And people get comfortable with that brand recognition, right? That's a big component of crypto, when the purpose of and value of crypto is in its network, right? Is in the retention of the people and the nodes in the network. That brand loyalty, if you will, is a big deal. And so that's why I saw a lot of degens in here in the chat with Hex and Pulse Chain related content. You've got Pulse Chain there on your shirt, right? I think a lot of us fans of Richard Hart like the ecosystem because it does rely on the strength of the nodes and of this community as the value of its network. And so I say all that to say, when you look at this chart, take a look here at 21 versus 25. I mean, it's about as stark as it gets. You've got a nice clean green line there showing that there is a sentiment bottom. So unless you think this time is different and altcoins are going to zero, there is some value to be had out there. Now the question is in which altcoins. That's the $1 million question, right? Because like I said before, there are so many of them. There's never been it's never been a harder choice to know which ones are going to perform or even outperform. This is all of them as an index. So this is them averaged together, their average performance. Some will greatly underperform this, and a key few will lead the path. Just like it's the case with the Mag 7, the S&P 500. It's the case across all financial sort of indexes. And so that's the game. That's why we're here paying attention to this stuff, is so that we can hopefully have an edge on which one of these altcoins will perform or outperform this expectation from this index in this next move that we're anticipating. Now, things do happen, right? It's not like, okay, time to go up now. This is just how it's going to work. But, things are looking positive in terms of the historical. Lots of folks postulate about a 4-year cycle. That's like a hot topic, point of debate here recently. And so it'll be really interesting to see if this thing rotates on a 4-year cycle, for sure. I know a lot of people are watching it to see as a faith check or sanity check on that 4-year cycle premise still being true, with traditional finance having entered.
It's true. And kind of the story that I think we're trying to paint with this view of how we're starting our little market update is that we're trying to figure out what season we're in or what exactly is going on right now. And I think that this chart and little tweet that you pulled up is a perfect example of that, which is that we're at the point where things that are larger have been performing very well and are continuing to perform very strongly. Bitcoin, namely, just been the absolute belle of the ball this entire cycle, a lot more than we ever predicted. Ethereum has finally had that big catch-up moment where it's really starting to look like it's going to push back towards the upside and really take over here shortly. But then what this chart is indicating is kind of like the next steps to that, which is that we're going to see the other L1s like XRP, Solana, Cardano, all those things really kind of start to follow that Ethereum trajectory. And so, don't get me wrong, those things are performing just fine as it stands right now. Like XRP is still around that $3 mark, which is up 6x from where it was probably 2 years ago. Solana is sitting around $200 right now, even though it's been bouncing around between it went all the way down as low as 90 back in March when we had the old tariff scare there that affected the entire market. And then it also was bouncing between 100 and 200 for a long time. We did have a run up to just a hair under 300 previously, but we're seeing that these larger assets, like you talked about, the ones with that brand name recognition, those ones are performing very well. The thing that we have not seen is we have not really seen an altcoin season, except for those moments where the entire market kind of just went parabolic really quick. I'm thinking back to March of 2024 after the Bitcoin ETF really took off and just went crazy. And then also at the end of 2024, early 2025, again, when the entire market really pumped hard after the election results and then also into the new year. And we saw altcoins perform then as well. Where we're sitting right now is what we're seeing on the chart here, which is that this chart is the mathematical formula is Ethereum divided by everything else. So, or is it the other way around? It's the other way around. It's everything else divided by Ethereum, meaning that because Ethereum is outperforming the rest of it, we see that dip in the chart, meaning that Ethereum is going up while everything below it is largely staying somewhat similar, somewhat the same, maybe going up slightly, maybe bleeding a bit. But the overall impression is that it is behind the front runners in the market right now. Front runners being Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Cardano, other major L1s, that kind of stuff. So when we also go look at some of our other indicators here, specifically, this is from CoinGlass, by the way, the old altcoin season index. You might notice we're a bit higher on this one, yet at the same time, people don't feel super high on altcoins, even though they've been hoping for an altcoin season for a while. But by the numbers, it's getting closer. So things are inching up. And despite the sentiment still, being down, sentiment is a great indicator of where you are in a short-term time frame when it comes to relatively where we were last month, last week, or whatever. How are we feeling about it compared to that? So last month, we were a new all-time high for Bitcoin. Right now, we're sitting around $111,000, $113,000, struggling to reclaim some of those moving averages. So that says why sentiment is down. But if you look at it from a strategic standpoint, this could be an indicator. It's kind of one of those blood in the street moments where it's like, yes, people are getting a little gun shy. They have some fears. They're not thrilled about the price just rocketing, meaning that this could be the setup for something coming down. Do you think that makes sense, or am I just painting a little too optimistically here?
No, I mean, I think it makes sense. I think if you look at previous bull, again, if we're going to look at history, we do see these sentiment resets throughout the bull run. Sort of fake outs, if you will, to sort of rinse those who are ready to exit the ride. And so I think, could we still go lower? For sure. I think we could still go lower and still be in an overall bull market. Like, I think crypto is volatile, right? Breaking news.
Feature, not a bug.
Yeah. It's funny, we're looking at that ratio chart. It looks a lot like, if you recall, watching the ETH BTC ratio chart just tank, right, and put in 7-year lows. It looks similar to that in terms of it looks like the bottom has fallen out, and then if you fast forward, I don't know if you're pulling, it looks like you might be pulling it up, but I know myself and Agent J on our lives and DGen and Walk the Block, we tried to call for a 0.03 or 0.035 bottom of this thing, and it fell out the bottom of that even. I mean, it just went down forever. And if you look, it's taken the elevator up now. It's made up a lot of time very, very quickly. So this is the type of V-shaped move that people are hoping to see on that other chart that we just showed you, right? And that would indicate others having that sort of a radical move against Ethereum.
Agreed. And by the way, for the folks at home, this is the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. So this is the ratio between Ethereum and Bitcoin. Mathematically, it's the price of Ethereum divided by the price of Bitcoin. Yep, we saw this just completely fall out for a long, long time. Finally made that bottom in, was that April of 2025? And then since then, we've been on the up and up. We did just close out our second week. So these 2 red candles here, those are the last 2 weeks. But as it stands right now, it's definitely a lot higher than it was previously. Like, this is effectively a 3x from old prices, pretty much. Or I guess old ratios, if you will.
And so if you have altcoins that you postulate are leverage on Ethereum, what you want is for this thing to continue to break out to new highs while the first chart we showed you is doing the same, right? That's how you get your big 100,000x those legendary runs that we hear about from previous bull runs on altcoins. You get that compounding or multiplicative effect in terms of the market cap. Its value rising just exponentially over 100 days, 120 days, some very, very small window of time. The notion of like alt season, right? I mean, it's not even hardly a season. I mean, it comes and it goes. It's a very, very quick process.
It's quick. It's very quick. So I do have pulled up here. This is the others. This is crypto total market cap, excluding the top 10. So that's going to capture a few stable coins, but namely your big boys, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, that kind of stuff. So this is effectively the altcoin market itself. As we saw back in March of 2024, massive run starting in October, went all the way up then. Again, massive pump, late November, December, right there. Big die down. Since then, it's recovered a bit, but it's not even higher than where it was back in 2024, and definitely not where it was at the end of 2024 there. So overall, it's possible. You can see that this somewhat reflects that altcoin season chart, which is that it's not as low as it was previously, because that's where we saw it bottom out. Let's double check this actually. So that's the 7th of April. Let's flip back over here. 7th of April. Oh, where are you? There you go. Yeah. 5th of April, definitely in Bitcoin season for sure. Since then, did go up. Oh, sorry, gosh, that's 2023. What am I doing here? Voila, here we are, April 2025. Yes, definitely down in the dumps. So this chart, I would say, largely represents the same as the others chart. Are we shocked that they do? Because they're pretty much measuring the same thing. Just one's kind of from a sentiment standpoint. This is just the raw dollar amount. So this is showing the actual gains versus this is kind of showing the comparison to the other assets. Overall, though, tell you what, let's flip it over to the number one in the space. That's going to be none other than Bitcoin. Looking at the weekly chart, we did just have our print. Came in green for the first week of September, so that's interesting. But then also, if we go over and we look at our daily chart, it looks like we are still working off of that 71-day cycle theory, which is that we had our cycle low on the 1st of September. And since then, we've come up. We tried testing the 20-day moving average once, came down, tried it again, actually got a little bit above it before getting rejected. And then now it looks like we're going for a third retest within 1 week, effectively, of trying to get back over this short-term moving average, if you will. Outside of that, though, the volume looks a little bit higher than it has in the past. So there's definitely action going on right now. If we look at RSI, in my opinion, has made a good indicator, which is that we had our cycle low here on the 1st. Sentiment was down at about 38. We've now created a new higher low. That is what I'm specifically referring to. So on the 6th of September, we had a new higher low out of about 44 on RSI. This is an index of 0 to 100, by the way. So what we're doing by creating new higher lows is it's building up. It's going up the ladder. It's showing that it's a changing course from the previous direction it was going. Because if we look back after we made all-time highs back here, and then we came down, we had our first lower low on the 19th, came up again, but then we had a new higher low on both price and RSI on the 25th, came back up a little bit, and then again, new lower low, both price and RSI. So now we're going up. We might have a new higher low on both price and RSI, and this could be the building point, especially if it's in alignment with the 60-day cycle, which I am looking at myself. Outside of that, we're still well above the 200, still below the 50-day moving average. So, I mean, it seems like we might be in a bit of an accumulation period or just some sideways action. But if we can actually break above the 20 and then the 50, there's a very high likelihood that it's probably going to go up, test all-time highs, and continue on towards price discovery.
Z, we looked at your bands on Bitcoin and compared them to Ethereum Monday night. You know, and it's kind of stark how how the two averages their present situation. Because like you said, Bitcoin is a little more of a tenuous position than Ethereum now, if you're going by the averages. And I think that's interesting. And I think it shows you, like you said, that there's Bitcoin season and then there's large caps, you know, Ethereum season or alt cap season and or large cap season. That seems to be what we're rotating into. Hopefully we can do that and still maintain momentum in Bitcoin at the same time, right? We'll see how that works out. At some point, the market runs out of gas. But as we've looked at things like the business cycle, we know everybody's anticipating rate cuts. We know lots of history around the long-term perspective, the like 12 months perspective after rate cuts, that's bullish. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, particularly with Bitcoin, the spear, so to speak, right? The core largest asset in crypto that drives the momentum and drives the speculation on down the risk curve, or up the risk curve, whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, look, I think this is a good one to watch. And I always do appreciate your, those moving averages, man. Every time I see them, I'm like, man, I got to go put those on my chart.
We all have our favorite tools. That just happens to be mine. And just real quick for reference, one of the things that Dace and I talked about over on the Walk the Block show on Monday is we were comparing the moving averages between Bitcoin and Ethereum. So flipping over to the Ethereum chart real quick, this one is moving along more sideways than down. Like Bitcoin's definitely moving down a little bit. It looks like it might be recovering, but Ethereum has largely just been sideways. So when it comes to Ethereum, we're only below the 20-day moving average on this one, and we're above the 50-day moving average. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is below both of them. So what that shows is that over the short and medium term time frame, it's looking more down, looking for reversal potentially. But for Ethereum, it's more of just waiting to continue an existing uptrend, because the only thing that we're below is the short term, and we're way above the 200-day moving average, which is down here, down at $2,700. That is your long-term indicator. But yeah, overall, this little tool can give you a perspective about where things are looking in regards to kind of the trajectory that they're going on, or I guess the technical term here is trend, if you will. So yeah, Ethereum's looking pretty good, sitting at about $4,300, sitting above that 50-day moving average. Came down and tested it on Friday, bounced right back off of it though. And then right now, Ethereum's just kind of contending with this 20-day moving average, trying to get back above it before going right back to making new all-time highs. So that's what we're talking about when we say that it looks like the seasons might be shifting a little bit and that there's the possibility of a potential altcoin season coming as well. Because a lot of the altcoins that we're talking about, that's going to be stuff that is either an L2, is some sort of ERC20 token, that's an Ethereum-based token, or it's going to be something that is related to one of these tokens in some sort of way. So if the underlying network itself for Ethereum starts performing very well, it gives that runway for everything else that's below it or associated with it to really take off as well.
That's correct. You've got Bitcoin people, more and more interested in bridging over their value, right, into Ethereum. We've seen some big Bitcoin holders sell Bitcoin for Ethereum here in the past few weeks, which has certainly fueled some of this run that you're showing here on the chart right now. I think that, like I said earlier, that's a great connection to me saying like Bitcoin's the spear, right? The higher Bitcoin goes up, the bigger the amount of folks will rotate over. Something you said earlier too was a lot of these run-ups we've had in this bull run past not even the whole bull run, let's say the past 12, 18 months have been around big legislative shifts or administrative changes. And we've got the Genius Stablecoin Act that's set to pass, and we've got ETH ETF staking rules set to be confirmed, all in Q4. And so those things make me very, very bullish, combined with some of these trends we're seeing in the charts. Those things together, it's very hard to be bearish over the next quarter, let's say.
That's true. Speaking of the big macro events going on, it's kind of been a theme for the last couple of shows that we've been running, which is that the crypto news hasn't been very huge. I mean, there's fun little tidbits and stuff, and we even have some of those stories to talk about tonight. But as far as like the fundamental stuff, the fundamental change or like those big moments, we haven't really seen any of those. And I mean, I hate to be the macroeconomic guy here, but we're kind of just in a waiting period until we get to the next Fed meeting, which is coming up. Josh, not next week. Is it 2 weeks from now? Yeah, 2 weeks, week and a half effectively. So we're looking at the 17th of September. That's going to be a Wednesday when we actually get the decision from the Federal Reserve. And the reason that I say that is not just because I'm just trying to follow those, but that is potentially the turning point when it comes to the Federal Reserve actually lowering interest rates, and that could affect the rest of the market. There's a good chance that that effect is already baked into what we're seeing on the charts and the numbers, but we don't know for sure what they're going to do yet. I think largely the markets are betting that it's going to be a quarter-point rate cut, but there's always the possibility they could do something larger. And if it's larger than that, then that could be that could be really the catalyst to see the charts react aggressively to it, either direction. I personally think it's going to be in the upwards direction because it's the thing that people have been asking for so long. So they're going to feel like they have a little more breathing room, and they can actually get back to a little bit of a more risk-on investing atmosphere, if you will. So, yeah. Is the news boring? It's crypto, so it's never super boring. I mean, Lord knows we got hyperinflation and scams to talk about tonight. And we also have the Trump family getting in on a bunch of other crypto stuff that's now entering the markets. For everyone that caught the Walk the Block show on Monday, Dace and I did a breakdown of World Liberty Finance and did a deep dive about like, okay, what is this company? What are they launching? And we gave them a little report card score of how we think they might do in the future. So look, it's not boring, but we are in a bit of a holding period, in my personal opinion. So,
have you noticed how well that aged? Have you noticed what happened with World Liberty this week? I mean, right after we made that show, man, some wild stuff went down with World Liberty. It was crazy.
Yeah. Another day, another scam. People getting hacked, wallets getting compromised, that kind of stuff. So,
Justin Sun's whole holdings on World Liberty Finance getting locked down, man.
Oh yeah. For those that don't know, Justin Sun, notable crypto figure. I can't remember the exact number. I want to say it was like $24 million worth of tokens were frozen due to activity going on. And he was like, what the heck? I'm on the, like, this is legitimate function. Why are you freezing it? So, yeah, wild stuff going on. But outside of that, before we get too far away from it, I do have one final chart I want to pull up real quick. And that is going to be Solana. This may be relevant in the next half hour. I'll say that much. Solana has been on a pretty steady climb. I mentioned it back earlier in the show. We had that big low dropped all the way down to $102 during all the old tariff stuff happening back in March and April. But then since then, that's just a very steady climb back to where it used to be. It did have its all-time high at about $295 back in January of 2025, but we're getting back up around that $200 range, and it's looking like it's kind of consolidating here and getting ready for a bigger move either direction. I happen to think it's going to be on the upside direction, largely because it is sitting above that 20-day moving average and has stayed well above that 50-day moving average. This is one of the reasons why I like to use the moving averages to figure out where things are going, because if you look, it really only dropped below that 20-day moving average for probably about like a week or two here back in August. But then outside of that, it's used that average as a support level as it just keeps climbing higher and higher. When it keeps bouncing off that support and just continuing to stay on the high side, that's when it shows that it wants to move in that higher direction. It wants to keep going up. And that's where you see that trend. So,
well, you're right.
Beautiful.
No, I mean, look at, like you said, that you've got that bottom there that crossed over your purple. And then the next step, we're just barely touching your blue, and then the next step, now we're bouncing off the light blue a few times, and so it's walked up each average as support. Looks great.
True. All right, Solana might have some interesting news events going on, but speaking of those, let's get to the big one. I mentioned it a little bit last week. It was World Liberty Finance. This week it is American Bitcoin Corp, or a Bitcoin mining company. Got some new entries to the markets. Trump's oldest son's American Bitcoin stake is worth $1.5 billion in their stock debut. A Bitcoin company tied to the president's two oldest sons more than doubled in value in its stock market debut on Wednesday, valuing the son's stake at well over $1.5 billion as the family grows their crypto business interests. Shares in American Bitcoin Corp, a Bitcoin miner, soared as high as $14.52 in day of its first trade on the NASDAQ before pulling back to be 16% up at $8 by the end of the day. Company is around 20% owned by Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. American Bitcoin Executive Chairman Asher Janut said in a previous interview, this values their stake at about $1.5 billion based on the 908.6 million outstanding shares that American Bitcoin said it had in September 2nd stock exchange filing. Jumping down a little bit, crypto is exploding, said Eric Trump in an interview on Wednesday. I would be saying right now the crypto space is at least 50% of what I'm doing. Trump family forays into crypto have drawn criticism from lawmakers and government ethics watchdogs about conflicts of interest. Critics say the Trump family is profiting from crypto at the same time when the president is easing regulations and enforcement on the industry. Eric Trump, second son, dismissed such criticisms as insane. Quote, my father has done absolutely nothing to do with this venture. He's running a nation. He's not involved in our business any way, shape, or form. We talked about this a little bit on the other episode that we keep mentioning, but this is going to be a common thing that I'm just going to predict that we're going to keep hearing for pretty much the duration of this bull market, which is that people are doing well in a space that is becoming deregulated, and there's an association with the person that is directing the deregulation. Does it look like it could possibly be some sort of ethical dilemma? Possibly, but at the same time, honestly, the deregulation that we've been looking at is stuff that we've been asking for a long time. It looks like common sense and good work from my account, and it just seems that the people that are aware of what's going on and making moves to profit off it just happen to have this lens that it can be viewed in. So personally, I don't think that's an issue. But the reason that I bring this one up is that, again, we have another large crypto company that is entering the traditional finance markets. That's the point we want to hammer home with this one and the next story, by the way, which is that crypto is entering the mainstream markets and it's doing very well. So having but a $1.5 billion day, that sounds like a good day.
Yeah, look, I think this World Liberty Finance story and the Justin Sun getting frozen, and also World Liberty, like you said, just the raw adoption. You're gonna have good, bad, and ugly stories, and they're all gonna gravitate people into this narrative as momentum grows. I think, like I said, we're gonna see a wild fourth quarter. Whether that looks like Super Bowl ads right over the new year. You've got Christmas advertising and all sorts of holiday campaigns that people are going to push. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, once you have legislation really clear the way, for these major financial players to offer mainstream products that are based off of blockchain technology rather than just, a conventional bank or fiat interaction. I mean, it's not going to be hard to market, in my opinion. And so it's going to be a rapidly changing landscape once those laws pass, in my opinion. You're going to see quite the horse race after that.
I agree, but we do have the people that are front running it right now. This next one, we have a winner and a loser, and the person in the loser category is actually someone that's not too often seen there. That's going to be none other than Robinhood and MicroStrategies. So, again, looking at traditional markets and crypto companies breaking into them, we have an article here from CCN. Robinhood joins the S&P 500, while MicroStrategies was left out of it. The S&P 500's latest reshuffle delivered a pilot twist tailor-made for searchers tracking S&P 500 additions. In short, Robinhood won a coveted seat at the table, while MicroStrategies, the company formerly known as MicroStrategy, and the largest company holder of Bitcoin, did not. The result jolted after-hours trading, sparked debate about how the index committee weighs eligibility versus discretion, and raised fresh questions about Michael Saylor's big Bitcoin treasury strategy and how fast the equity mainstream wants to embrace it. So MicroStrategies, for years... sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here. So, MicroStrategy has spent years transforming from an enterprise software brand into a Bitcoin treasury pioneer, amassing a massive on-balance position sheet. Reportedly, the company did meet the S&P 500's formal inclusion criteria: large market value, around $95 billion, just super small, $95 billion only. Ample liquidity and float, pretty much just the ability to have shares available for trading. And then newly positive, generally accepted accounting principles, or GAAP earnings. For years, MicroStrategy reported these as losses, largely because accounting rules previously required it to record impairment charges whenever the market value of its Bitcoin holdings fell, but did not allow them when making up when prices rose. In 2023, new accounting standards were approved, allowing companies to report Bitcoin at its current market value rather than impaired costs. These rules went into effect in 2025. Thanks to those and Bitcoin's price surge, Strategy posted its first GAAP profit in early 2025. In the second quarter of 2025, it recorded one of its strongest results ever, with a $14 billion unrealized gain on Bitcoin holdings, pushing it into the black.
People wondering why Bitcoin went up in 2025. There's your, follow the incentives.
There you go. So, why it may not have been included? The S&P committee gave no direct explanation. It rarely does, but the omission highlights its discretionary power. Analysts point to a few likely factors. Number one, Bitcoin exposure risk. MicroStrategy stock functions largely as a proxy for Bitcoin's price, which could add unwanted volatility to the index. Number two, profitability recency. This was MicroStrategy's first full year of GAAP profitability, helped by new accounting rules that let it mark Bitcoin at fair value. The committee may want to see more consistent results. Number three, historical caution. The committee has delayed unconventional entrants before. Tesla, for example, was eligible months before it was actually added back in 2022. So, at a glance here, what are we looking at? Seems like the S&P 500 is not exactly just the straight up list of the 500 largest companies.
Yeah, I mean, there's memes about it's a club and you're not in it. There's all sorts of things you can say here. I think it shows you where the rubber meets the road in terms of traditional finance's perception of crypto. I mean, we're still astronomically small in scale to, it's the 500th biggest candidate, right? That means there's 499 bigger companies out there, and none of them are interacting with crypto like this one is. So for the powers that be, I imagine that would be a bit of a drawback, or at least like they've said here in this article, a question mark, where they want to see, okay, the rules have changed. You guys are reporting the positive GAAP earnings or whatever, GAAP profitability, and so let's see how long you can do it. I know that Robinhood probably has reported profitability since they started scamming people in 2018 or whatever. Don't come for me, Robinhood. And
allegedly.
So might still be a little salty about the GameStop thing, just maybe. And so yeah, look, I'm not surprised, right? If you know the GameStop story, you know that Robinhood is very well connected with lots of big traditional finance players, and so good for them. I hope that they find some more backing so they can serve their customers properly. That'd be great.
It's true. So the point of reading this article is not to just do the team sport thing of me yelling at traditional finance for excluding my crypto homies. It's like, okay, let's actually look at this. So to steel man the S&P 500 case. What is the point of the S&P 500? It's supposed to be the conglomeration of the 500 largest companies in the United States and be a good aggregate for them so that it gives people an ETF to invest in with a high degree of certainty, effectively. If you go from that standpoint, then these are reasonable precautions, I would argue, which is that, number one, exposure. If you want a ETF of company exposure, having a company that is pretty much a direct correlation for Bitcoin price kind of goes against it. Because if people wanted an ETF with cryptocurrencies or kind of just like, I don't know, like precious metals or that kind of other stuff, things that are actually act somewhat differently than stock prices, then that has a place in a different ETF. Maybe not this one. I can understand that. The recency, yeah, go for it.
I was just going to quickly say the fact that they have a committee and they make the determination tells you at the end of the day, it's about the output, right? What is the best for the index? And if you zoom out on the index, it's up only. Bitcoin, it's all over the place. Zoom out enough, it's up, but it's not up only, right? They want something more consistently providing, like this thing says, this concurrent streak of recorded profitability versus bear market years, bull market years. And so, like you're saying, that's maybe it just doesn't fit the profile of their index, in their perceptions. And if we do get this sort of stabilized, like very, very slow return Bitcoin moving forward, now that traditional finance is into it, I could very much see after 5 years and be like, cool, Bitcoin is slowly going up. It's not nearly as volatile. It's matured, which means we've got enough leverage on it both ways that it's going to hang out in price a little more than it would before when it was all just spot moving it. And so, yeah, I do think that in the next 5 years, you'll see Strategy and some others, if the bubble doesn't burst, right? If we don't go back down to $30,000 Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know what Sailor's liquidation price is. I think it's like 70, 78, something like that. It's under 80. Always a fun number to watch. But yeah, that's some of my perception would be in line with like what you've said, is that if there's a committee picking these companies, it's not just the calculator saying, okay, you've broke into the 500, so you're in. It means that it's people making the determination, and they're making that determination based off of the asset's history and its expectation.
It's true. I think it's very easy to look at the S&P 500 and just think it's just a straight up math problem of like, okay, what are the 500 largest? All right, get in there. I think that it's more than that. So the reason I say that, and I don't want to do one of these things where it's like you force someone to have to take on additional responsibilities that they never asked for, but financial markets are one of the most heavily regulated things here in the United States, and it's for good reason too. Pop quiz, Dace. What do most people have their 401k invested in?
I'm going to go ahead and guess the S&P 500s,
Ah, there it is. Yes, sir. The S&P 500 it is shown to be a very historically stable yet growing opportunity when it comes to things like retirement accounts. So the fact that people largely just take their retirement accounts and kind of just shove it in the S&P 500 means that this is effectively a lot of the United States market, or a lot of the United States retirement accounts or investment accounts that have exposure to this specific thing in particular. The S&P 500 has been an interesting case that people have tried to manipulate over the years for their own personal gain. One of the ways I'm talking about doing that is that if you can get your company listed in the S&P 500, again, if you just go by a math problem, then there are ways to kind of fudge the numbers a bit or just over manipulate your numbers so that you technically meet the criteria to hope to get included. If you are included in the S&P 500, you effectively have the buying pressure of the entirety of the United States retirement accounts and investment accounts, not to mention the rest of the world. That is a lot of buy pressure. So it's a lot of incentive to try to get in the S&P 500. So if people are trying to squeeze the numbers a little extra far to get in there and get included, there are massive payouts that can come with it. Namely, that there's a lot of people that are going to be buying up the stock. It's a lot of liquidity, a lot of buying pressure, and a lot of holding power as well. So to prevent the manipulation, yes, I am making the case here that having a committee decide these things and not just do the pure math problem makes sense. At the very least, it's a good way to at least double check the math problem and make sure that things are not being manipulated. Because again, this is a large market. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of incentive to try to maybe cheat the rules a little bit, maybe fudge the numbers a little bit. Because if you can get a hold of that pie, oh my gosh, it's one of the biggest pies that's out there in the world.
Yeah, look, and I think, like the article noted, is as recent as 2023 that the rules were changed, and they didn't take effect till this year. And so give it a year or two. It might be your extended cycle or whatever you want to call it. I think crypto will fundamentally change again when these pieces of legislation that I mentioned earlier in the show pass this quarter. I think all bets are off for 26, man. It's going to be a wild year for crypto.
Yeah. And by the way, this is also in reference to that little note at the bottom there where they say the historical caution of they didn't even include Tesla when it technically made it. If we go look at the Tesla chart, it has some volatility. This looks closer to a crypto chart than a stock chart, in my personal opinion. So back in 2020, massive growth after having already massive growth. Some small dips here and there, but just continuously up and to the right. And then again, we get into 2023, large dip, recovery, large dip, massive recovery, large dip, massive recovery. For a stock price, this is kind of unprecedented, especially for a company as large as Tesla. So I understand the caution of including things like this in what is supposed to be one of your most stable, best performing ETFs out there that people really try to trust as much as they can. I get that. So like Tesla, now I do wholeheartedly believe it should be in the S&P 500. It is, I want to say it's one of the top, it's one of the Magnificent Seven, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that makes sense. But when it comes to crypto and MicroStrategy in particular here, I understand the hesitation. I do think that eventually it will be included. But again, if we even get to their third point, which is that the profitability recency, that is it a bit of accounting changes on paper? Yes, absolutely. Do they have to have accounting changes because this is a fundamentally different asset and a fundamentally different business model? Also, yes. So I understand it's the classic thing that we talked about all the time back when we were just ranting about Gary Gensler and he's trying to shoehorn cryptocurrency into old securities regulations. This is kind of an equivalent thing, a less maleficent way to do it, in my opinion, but it's more of like, you are a crypto company, you make profit in like uncharacteristic ways that don't usually apply with a lot of the stuff we work with. So we don't know how to incorporate it. That makes sense. So to give them the benefit of the doubt, do these 3 points make sense? I think they largely do. Is there a reasonable explanation for why the committee exists to decide who gets into the S&P 500? Yes, I do think so as well. I think that largely though, it should be unrestricted, but I understand the discretion that they exercise and a little bit of the restriction around it. It makes sense to me.
Agreed.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Let's see. Robinhood. Oh, Robinhood, you got in. So for those who don't know, Robinhood is a trading platform. They are a little bit different than your average trading platform like Fidelity or JP Morgan Chase or Charles Schwab, which is that they are a bit more of a holding house instead of an actual investment platform, which is that it's more of on paper and accounting as opposed to actual ownership of stocks. So that is one of the ways that allows Robinhood to actually transact a lot faster and gets people into the market faster. It allows them to move faster. There are some downsides with that though. One, it means that you don't have the same kind of like guarantees that you do with a more established trading platform like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, those ones, because those are kind of more geared towards like long-term investments or high players in the trading space. Robinhood is very much marketed and designed for smaller retailer traders. So that's why it does what it does. And that's why when you want to buy crypto on Robinhood, you don't really own the crypto, and trying to get it transferred to a hot wallet or hard wallet is a lot more difficult and is going to take more time than a centralized exchange like Coinbase or something like that. But nonetheless, they've been successful for many years at this point. There have been some scandals. Dace mentioned a good one, the old GameStop one back in the day. One of the big issues with that one is that they may or may not have had a period where they said, hey, we're so happy that you bought GameStop and you're very excited about it. For the time being, you are not allowed to buy any more GameStop. but you can sell it anytime you wish. You just can't buy it. That seems like a bit of a manipulation, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, the whole thing was wild, man. There's a whole, what's the show? There's a show on Netflix. If you all out there have Netflix, you don't know the story. It's a great show. I'll pull up the name here in a second. You mentioned Fidelity. In our Telegram today, I posted that Fidelity is launching a tokenized US Treasury fund on Ethereum. And so you've got traditional players like Robinhood, right? Robinhood is not traditional, but they're in, they are affiliated with old school traditional players. Fidelity is another long-standing traditional finance name that is putting their feet, further into the cryptocurrency pool. And that's been the thesis that I've been banging this drum for a few months of, like, you're going to see these bigger firms start to launch products on Ethereum as this legislation comes closer and closer. There it is. So I didn't mean just to change the topic, but rather to tag on and say, a lot of these major players that people know and trust that are not traditionally crypto players are going to start to offer these types of products, whether it's a treasury fund or a centralized stablecoin product, with loans and yield bearing. You're going to see all kind of things like this roll out, particularly once Fidelity themselves can offer an ETF and then stake the ETF on your behalf, right? And then generate that yield. I mean, there's so much, there's so many products that they could offer once those pieces of legislation pass. And like, we're already seeing them roll these things out in preparation for them. Like you said earlier, seems like the theme of the show tonight is like traditional finance front running these big changes. Is a lot of what we're seeing here recently.
Yes, sir. And that's why we're talking about it, because going back to that first story, you could say that it's the whole Trump's trying to get in on their dad deregulating stuff, but really, I think what it is just people that are aware of the markets and are able to get into those positions before the rest of the market. So this one, again, another example. By the way, if you're not following Whale Insider on X, go do it. It's a great follow. A lot of good information. It's usually one of the first people to get news out. So definitely a good follow over there. Finish up our Robinhood saga, though. Robinhood made it into the S&P 500 because of many reasons, including it meets all the thresholds. It is big enough. It is profitable. It is liquid enough, and it's US-based. Diversified business model. It's known for its commission-free stock trades and a largely retail user base. Robinhood also offers crypto trading, but unlike MicroStrategy, its revenues come from multiple sources. Fintech validation. Robinhood's inclusion underscores how far the fintech model has come since its pandemic era surge. It joins Coinbase and Block as the only other crypto-linked names in the S&P 500. So a little bit of a why it matters. It means that index tracking funds and ETFs will be required to buy its stock, automatically boosting demand and improving liquidity. There you go. That's what I mentioned earlier. Beyond that, inclusion signals to the market that Robinhood has reached a new level of financial stability and credibility. There you go. The company's rise from a scrappy startup to a top-tier index member underscores how far financial technology innovation has come. Its combination of commission-free trading and crypto offerings has reshaped how everyday Americans invest. And now, with S&P 500 inclusion, Robinhood's influence is being formally recognized by the financial establishment. There you go. You mentioned it earlier. It's the club and you're not in it. Well, the club let Robinhood in. So.
Well, yeah, again, go watch the Netflix show. It's a great show. It's your viewing after this. Yeah, it will be interesting to see if their offerings change. That's my curiosity, is like, do they launch new marketing behind this? Do they change their crypto offerings? Or is it just business as usual? That will be an interesting thing to watch here moving forward with Robinhood.
True. Alrighty. Final getting in on the market story here for you. I mentioned it during the chart talk, but here you go. We have Solana. Look at that. The NASDAQ approved Solana Strategies listing for next week. The Canadian company makes inroads to the U.S. markets with a NASDAQ listing on September 9th, moving trading from its over-the-counter venture market. It's set to debut after the approval to list its shares. In a Friday notice, Solana Strategies said it would be listing common shares on the NASDAQ Global Select Market starting September 9th under the ticker symbol STKE. The listing will end of the company's shares today over the counter venture on that whatever. Okay. While maintaining trading activity on Canadian securities exchanges. Quote, this listing provides our shareholders with enhanced liquidity while also giving us deep access to deeper capital markets as we continue scaling our validator operations and expand our ecosystem's investments. The company offers traders exposure to the Solana blockchain through staking the protocol's native token, Solana. The strategies announced raising $500 million in convertible notes in April to buy Solana tokens. Sol Strategy's share price on the Canadian Securities Exchange under that ticker symbol HODL surged about 20% on Friday. Amid the announcement, the company reported a net loss of $3.5 million for the second quarter of Q2 2025. Among the companies betting on the Solana treasuries is DeFi Development Corp. On Friday, they announced acquisition of fresh Solana tokens worth $39 million, bringing the company's total holdings to 22 million Solana. By the way, Solana is currently trading at about $200, so that is about $400 million worth of Solana that they have. And then additionally, Solana has had an upgrade recently. They upgraded to Alpenglow after the governance process. On Tuesday, they announced that an overwhelming majority of a 52% stake participating in the governance process voted to upgrade the network to the new consensus protocol Alpenglow. This upgrade is expected to significantly reduce the transaction finality time on the network. At these speeds, Solana could realize Web 2 level responsiveness with L1 finality, unlocking the new use cases that require both speed and cryptographic security or certainty, the foundation said in its blog post. So, what do you think? Is this good news or is this just a hype piece?
I mean, it feels like a little bit of both. You know, the end of there was a little bit of hype. It is funny that the Canadians are listing Solana. I don't know why that's funny to me, but I think it's funny to me. Yeah, look at the end saying like speed's going to unlock these new abilities and new features. I think I'll believe that when I see it. I feel like we've heard that for 4 years, you know, and we have mostly the same EVMs, mostly the same smart contracts out there, whether it's Ethereum or Solana. Like, yeah, Solana is quicker, but that doesn't mean therefore it's doing anything different, at least not thus far. And so that premise will be a believe it when I see it for me. But everything else, it just points to mainstream adoption of things that aren't Bitcoin, things that big organizations can program and control, you know. And so while Bitcoin has led the charge, to me, this just tells you, like I said, it's going to be a much more diverse and much more interesting year than it has been the previous, you know, year backwards, where it's just been Bitcoin dunking on everything. I think you're going to see things really start to fan out, because you can't, when the Genie stablecoin bill passes, when the ETH ETF staking rules pass, you can't go build a Bitcoin product now because of those rules, right? You can only go build smart contract based products on the backs of those rules. And so to me, that is the writing on the wall, saying that the seasons are going to shift away from Bitcoin and towards some of these other L1s.
I hear you. One of the reasons I included this one in our little roundup of the topic is that this, in my opinion, I know this is like my personal bias showing here, but it's a theory that I've been working on, which is that I think stuff like this is a legitimate case to make that Solana has a good avenue to become the number 3 blue chip. As it stands right now, we really only have Bitcoin, and then Ethereum only recently, through the last cycle, effectively really solidified itself as the next blue chip. This kind of stuff, it has mass adoption. The technology is getting better, it's getting faster, and it has a new use case over Ethereum that it previously did not. Ethereum is very good when it comes to smart contracts and just the scale that it has, but Solana is actually kind of eating Ethereum's lunch a little bit when it comes to speed. And I think that, exactly as the article said at the bottom, if you can increase the speed to get crypto or Web3 operating at the speed of like Web 2, that's something that I think a lot of end users are really looking for and will want to take advantage of. And because of that, I think that this is an argument that it's getting to the size, stability, and market share that it needs in order to really capture that blue chip spot, in my opinion.
Maybe, but right now XRP is holding it, and XRP can't do none of that junk, dude.
That's
all
true.
they can do is print the yield and sell it, right? Sell the inflation. But they have loyalty. They have that brand loyalty, right? That we talked about at the top of the show, man. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, the network is the value of the network is comprised of the number and fervency of its nodes. You got a lot of those folks on Solana, no doubt about it, and they're bringing out the utility to back that trajectory and that growth into the future. As investors, we speculate about the future, and so I hear you, man. Like, it's a great bet moving forward. Like I said, the chart looks great. There's no way to say it doesn't. Now, if you pull up the eSol chart, we can have a conversation, or Sol ETH, I should say. But yeah, look, it is telling to me that XRP is. I just pulled up the CoinMarketCap list, and it's like XRP is above Solana, and like you can't do. I mean, it doesn't even have. It's like major exchanges on Ethereum. Like it's crazy to me. We'll see if it can sustain that in light of these other traditional finance instruments adopting Solana, right? We know that Solana has plenty of people behind it. I mean, the president of the United States launched a meme coin on it. That sounds like a joke. That sounds like something that you would make up, but it's true. And so, and yet it's not in that number 3 slot. That's interesting to me. I know that with Solana has a certain culture that goes along with that emphasis on the speed of transactions, right? That speed of transactions culture in the past year or so has not translated into like very traditional finance friendly activity. It's mostly gambling, right? And people are holding tokens for 30 seconds, 2 minutes, but if it drives volume and if it drives the fees, and people are holding the L1 when they take profits in these little flips, I guess you get a lot of momentum. And so we will see what happens, man. I do think it's an interesting snapshot. If you look at the top 10 right now, the top 10 is an interesting group of folks in general, in terms of when you compare their functionality, their relative ages, things like that. And so I will certainly be watching here with you.
Sounds good. Speaking of which, might as well just pull it up real quick. Our top 10. Oh, that is the wrong one to zoom in on. Top 10 when it comes to coinmarketcap.com. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Tether, exclude that one, Binance, Solana, and then this one always makes me chuckle, Doge. There you go. Doge is ahead of Tron and Cardano. So if we get rid of the stablecoin there, Hyperliquid does make it into our top 10 at number 11, excluding the stablecoin there. So yeah, as it stands right now, you're not wrong. I think you had very good points there when it comes to the idea of the culture of speed. I think that is definitely something that retail traders care about, especially the folks over on Solana who are going for some very aggressive plays when it comes to the meme coins, because meme coins live on Solana. That's the largest market over there for it. So it makes sense. As far as traditional finance, do they care about that stuff? Not exactly, but we've seen a large amount of venture capital put into Solana. So it seems more, it's like the play of you want to own the casino rather than be the one playing in it. So that could be the strategy that they're looking over there. But again, you're not wrong. XRP looking pretty strong there, sitting about, what is this, $171 billion market cap. And Solana is behind it at about $111 billion. So they got to overtake Binance first before they're going to overtake XRP in the market cap. But,
Look,
realistically,
love to see it, man. They missed a whole bull market. And now here they are, the gang out there looking for $3. You guys, your ship came in, good for y'all. That's awesome.
Sure. Tell you what, before we get out of here, I do have one more story I want to pull up. But before that, I also want to give a shout out to some of the folks in the audience, because we really appreciate you guys showing up every week. Probably none more than Tam says, hello, my lovelies. Good to see you, Tam. Glad you can make it. I know you're staying busy with all the stuff you're doing, hosting the X Spaces, doing some great work over there. Mr. Hex Glenn says, hello, everyone. Good to see you, buddy. And by the way, Funkmaster Hex does have a quick reminder for everybody, which is hit the damn like button. Come on now. And then good buddy of ours, 54 Cent himself, says, better late than never. What's up, Degens? Good to see you, her.
Howdy, sir.
And good to see you here, not her. Oh, gosh, what am I doing? The brain rot. It's taking over. And last but not least, a good friend as well, Mr. Fast Abdul says, I am here for the tech. Well, we're talking a little tech today. And outside of that, let's get into the last one, our fun use case story of why you should maybe own cryptocurrency. So, hello to the country of Venezuela. I understand you are currently experiencing hyperinflation. 229%. That sounds rather aggressive. So, as they are hitting 229% inflation, Binance dollars, as they're calling it, replace Venezuela's Bolivar as inflation hits. Stablecoins like USDT are overtaking Venezuela's Bolivar for everyday payments from groceries to salaries. They've become the de facto currency for millions of people navigating a crumbling financial system in their country as their annual inflation hits 229%. For reference, That is your average grocery bill 3x's in a year. That's a lot. Oh my gosh.
We've been complaining about what, so in 2020, $100,000 salary, if you translate that to today, it would be worth $125,000, right? So that's 25% over 5 years, which is a lot more than what they're telling us the inflation is. Let's be real. But it sure ain't 229% in a year. I mean, that is hard to fathom.
That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. So, once limited to crypto savvy traders, Tether, often referred to locally as Binance dollars, is now widely used across Venezuela from everything from groceries to condo fees to salaries and vendor payments. Bolivia's national currency is largely dead in daily commerce. Hyperinflation, strict capital controls, and a fractured exchange rate landscape drive a growing preference for stablecoins over cash or local bank transfers. There are currently 3 rates for the US dollar in Venezuela. The official bank rate is 151 bolivars to US dollar. The parallel market rate is 231, and the Tether rate on Binance is 219. Tether's liquidity and reliability make it the most used rate among vendors and consumers. Quote, people and companies prefer to price their goods and services in USD and receive payments for them in USD. He noted that Tether now functions as both a better dollar and a financial equalizer across social classes. So I'm not saying that people have made predicting this stuff for a long time, which is that fiat currencies fail, fractional reserve banking can get out of hand, and in those times, you might have to turn to a more stable money supply. And in this case, it looks like crypto is actually doing the job.
Man, that's wild. And so that's, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of speechless. I had like 2 or 3 things I was going to say, but when you just made a great point. Yeah, look, I think when you think about stablecoins use case, they're backed by real world dollars somewhere. Thus far, that's been the premise with a couple of very rare exceptions. Don't at me, PDI people. And so I think that's, when you look at those exchange rates and you've got that such a variability of rates, it's the proof in the pudding of what you just said. Like fiat systems over time, there's a degree of entropy that's introduced as you roll the ball of wax down the hill. And as it grows and grows and grows, you get these anomalies and you get these inflationary events that, who'd have thought that if you give people the power to print money based off of nothing, that it, like you said, might get out of hand. Who knows? That's a crazy, crazy idea.
It's wild. Look, is this the final perfectly pure end state, the libertarian ideal for cryptocurrency? No, because it's Tether, which is tied to the US dollar, which is also a fiat currency. But at the same time, though, this is absolutely like the use case that you throw to people to kind of like red pill them a little bit on the dangers of the financial system and how fiat currencies fail over time. And that cryptocurrency is potentially a good solution for that, assuming the cryptocurrency you're using has good fundamentals behind it. Tether, stablecoin, has pretty good fundamentals because it's a stablecoin. It's very secure. Tether is the largest in the market out there by a big margin. But the underlying kind of like black point on it is that it is still largely tied to the US dollar, which, as I said, is a fiat currency. And by the way, fiat currencies do have a 100% track record of failing. So not trying to make everyone too scared out there, but I'm just saying the track record speaks for itself.
Well said, sir. Couldn't say it better myself.
Either way, end point is, look, the world's getting crazy out there. Venezuela's going through it right now. At least they have Binance dollars to hold them through and keep it going. That doesn't mean life is pleasant by any stretch of the imagination. Just because you have a stable currency that you're using doesn't mean that the underlying conditions of everything costing at least double are still in effect. So my heart goes out to those guys. Hope you guys get it figured out. I don't have too many nice things to say about the Venezuelan government or how they run things, but to the people, si puede.
Yeah, man. Look, I mean, it's like you said, that's why we're here. That's why Roundtable exists, is because of the nature and the status of the economic situation here. I can't imagine how much more so it's extended over there. It's got to be grueling. But thank you guys for joining us here so that you can hopefully beat that curve, right? That's why we're here. Is we all are trying to do better and improve ourselves, and from wherever we may be. And so I think you're going to see this happen in more places. I don't think this is going to be an isolated event as we move forward into the future. And I think you're going to have a resurgence this past election cycle, and even more so the one before. Strangely, we had a lot of rhetoric about UBI, universal basic income. I think you're going to see that emerge in a big way during midterms, and also very much again in the next 4-year cycle. How much it emerges, I think it will scale depending upon how many other cases like this you see, particularly if it happens here, right? As inflation gets rampant across the world, and as it depends, honestly, a lot on monetary policy moving forward. How many more dollars they're making into the future. That's why September 17th, when they decide if they're going to start cutting rates or not, it's ultimately quite a big deal. We're all going to be tuned in. I'm sure we'll be live in the Telegram. Join us if you haven't yet. There's the QR code. But yeah, this is why we're so into this stuff, because it has real world implications.
Absolutely. Trying to escape the horrors of man-made currency, but it is what it is. Outside of that, by the way, folks, do apologize for the shortened show tonight, but trying to keep it short and sweet for you guys. We're on a bit of a skeleton crew, if you will. Appreciate Dace hopping on here, and they're saving my butt, so to speak.
Happy to do it.
Sure, you guys like
to
saying
the wall,
anyway. Yeah, but apparently I do that enough in my daily life. Talk to myself out loud. I don't know. People tell me I'm crazy. I'm just thinking about stuff. But either way, one more horror of the modern era that I do want to give you before we get out of here is that, well, nothing's new under the sun, folks. As we get further into the crypto world, scams still are out there. Please be aware. And this stuff is getting picked up by more and more mainstream media. So we got Tech Radar Pro coming to us here. Bitcoin record high sparks a surge in crypto scams. Hyper on cryptocurrency has a ripe environment for malicious actors. They go in and they talk about all the different opportunistic scams. And then additionally, other people are reporting it as well. Crypto Telegraph, phishing scams cost users over $12 million in August alone. Here's how to stay safe. Number one, not your keys, not your crypto. Number two, your seed phrases are between you and God. No one else. Got it? All right, cool. Outside of that, please be careful. These are not sophisticated attacks. This is just the usual stuff. It is impersonation. It is phishing. It is all sorts of stuff. People are, can't remember where was that, but someone was saying that they're using all sorts of like weird scams, like literal physical metal letters through the mail, text messages, people using phone calls, using AI to imitate famous people's voices, getting you to invest in their new hot startup, and they just need you to send them $500 in Amazon gift cards.
I know in the past 30 days or so, iOS has pushed a couple of updates around security regarding a text message that you don't even have to open. And if your phone receives it, it gives access of your phone to somebody else. And so keep on your updates, follow the rules Zenith said, and just don't click on it. It's easy, right? Just click nothing. Very simple.
And
I'm joking, but like it is, you have to be serious about what you're doing. And especially in the browser, you've got your wallet in, right? If you're running a hot wallet, be really careful about that thing. Run provoke.cash. Run it in a separate browser. I like to not use the same browser to browse as I do to do crypto things in. That way you're not going to accidentally click or browse to something that you don't need to. Certain things like that, that you don't think about until it's too late, and so it's another thing that we try to really cover as much as we can. I know Mr. Angry Twinkie posts a lot about vulnerabilities and new potential problems within the crypto space. And so a big shout out to Twinkie for being a consistent contributor of quality information in the Telegram.
Absolutely. And by the way, for all of us crypto native folks out there, this is the big one right here. Good practices to avoid phishing scams include checking URLs for tiny mistakes and bookmark your pages instead of using search engines. It's easy to corrupt the search engines and get at the top of the algorithm, especially if they let you pay for it. And this is far and away, through my reporting in the field, this is the number one thing that I've been seeing the most, is that people are getting scammed by lookalike websites, but the URL is literally like one letter off. The most recent one, this last week, there was a big scam through about World Liberty Finance, where instead of World Liberty, they had World Liberty Finance.
Was it World Liberty Finance or was it Liberty Swap? I think it was Liberty Swap that got scammed. The Pulse Chain on-ramp. Yeah.
I think that might be the one, actually.
But yeah, either way, you're correct. The Liberty with the ERRE switch was the source of the problem.
Yep, same thing. And it's not just for new projects. Anytime there's any sort of money to be made or people are going to be getting rewards for certain things. I was covering this back when the Sonic airdrops came out. A lot of people doing similar stuff, which is posting fake websites where it's like one letter is changed up to make you think it's legitimate. And they just straight up copy paste the website that they're trying to imitate. And then they just implement their little code to send you to their portal instead of the official one. So when you connect your wallet to it, that's game over. There you go.
Yep, and that's the danger of holding your own keys, right? You're taking responsibility for yourself, and that's not just a cool thing to say you're doing, right? It takes real risk and it takes real attention and responsibility, because you can go lose it all if you go do some stupid stuff. Nobody's going to come save you.
Yep, and to hit you with the old Thomas Jefferson there, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. So we've chosen to be in the space. We chose to play on hard mode to get the hard mode rewards. At the same time, stay frosty, double check everything, trust nothing without good reason. And it's on all of us. Individual responsibility is massive, especially when we're playing in this space. So please, please, please don't get zeroed out. We can all make it together. I believe it. I genuinely do. Alrighty. Well, tell you what. Let's get out of here for the week. That is pretty much it for us here. Outside of that, we do have a special guest episode coming up on Wednesday. We're finalizing details, so we don't want to put out all the names just yet. Trying to make sure we got it actually locked down, but that is in the works. So Wednesday, we're going to have a special guest episode. I'm going to talk to Will about book club for this Friday because yours truly is traveling for a wedding. So very happy for my friends that are getting married, but at the same time, apologies to you guys. I know that book club is something we're trying to keep going. So that way we can have a very cool end of the year tier list where we rank all the different books we cover this year. In order to make the tier list, we have to read the books. So we got to get back on it. Outside of that, though, exactly. It's some good YouTube clickbait. Plus they're fun. Come on. You got to argue about it and make silly names for the categories.
For sure, man. Or an iceberg. You got to do an iceberg too. One or the other.
That would be a good one as well. Alrighty. Outside of that, though, folks, I'm Zenith. You can catch me on X and Instagram at zenithdi. But more importantly, if you want to hang out with us, chat with us, share all your interesting tidbits, questions, funny memes, join the Telegram. You can do so by scanning the QR code over there in that corner. Camera left, not my left, or camera right, excuse me. But yeah, that's where you can find me. Dace, good sir, where can the folks find you?
Find me at DGenRoundtable and at Walk the Block on Telegram. I'm also at Dace Northal on X and on Instagram. Find me there.
Love it. All right. Well, with that being said, folks, as Agent J of our own Degen Roundtable says, we know that time is your most valuable asset. So we want to thank you for it each and every time you spend it here with us. Mr. Producer, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready. That's me, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to degen responsibly.